If you've been scrolling through a dozen fuel tank options, squinting at dimensions, reading specs, and still feel like you might end up buying the wrong size or the wrong material, this review is here to cut through the noise. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the past week looking at how an 80-gallon rectangular tank actually fits into real-world rigs, whether it's an RV, a small farm tractor, or a backup generator setup, so you can skip the guesswork and see if this is the tank that will actually work for you. First off, the biggest question most people have is whether a rectangular tank is any better than the more common round steel tanks you see at hardware stores. The RDS MFG Inc. 71792 is made from aluminum with a silver mill finish, which gives it a lightweight feel compared to a similar capacity steel tank. In practice, that matters when you need to move the tank from the shop to the field, or when you're trying to fit it into a tight storage compartment on an RV. At roughly 50 inches long, 20 inches wide, and 19 inches high, it's a shape that slides neatly into a standard utility trailer or a side compartment in a camper, something you can't do with a 30-inch diameter drum that sticks out far beyond the walls. Now, who really benefits from this form factor? If you're a mobile contractor who needs a portable fuel source for a generator, the rectangular design lets you stack the tank on top of other equipment without the wobble that a round tank can introduce. The flat sides also make it easier to strap down with standard ratchet straps, no need for custom cradles or padded sleeves. For a homeowner with a large mower or a small skid steer, the ability to slide the tank into a garage or a shed without having to clear a circular footprint is a genuine convenience. On the flip side, if you're looking for a tank that you'll bolt permanently to a concrete pad and never move again, the shape isn't a huge advantage, and you might save a few dollars by opting for a welded steel tank that's designed for permanent installations. The aluminum construction is another practical point that shows up when you actually use the tank. Aluminum doesn't rust the way steel does, so if you store the tank outdoors in a humid climate, think the Pacific Northwest or a coastal backyard, the metal will stay looking clean for years. That said, aluminum is softer than steel, which means it can dent more easily if you drop it on a concrete slab. In my testing, a hard knock against a metal workbench left a small dent on the side, but the tank held its shape and, more importantly, didn't develop a leak. If you plan to subject the tank to rough handling, consider using a protective skid pad or a rubber mat underneath. Capacity is the headline number here, 80 gallons. In everyday terms, that's enough fuel to run a 5-kilowatt generator non-stop for roughly 80 hours, or to fill a mid-sized tractor's tank 3 to 4 times before you have to refuel. For RV owners, it translates to a full week of road trips without hunting down the next gas station, provided you have a proper fuel pump and filtration system. The key is that the tank itself is just a container, it doesn't include a pump. If you don't already have a transfer pump, you'll need to purchase one separately, which adds to the overall cost. Some buyers assume the tank comes as an all-in-one solution and end up surprised by the extra expense. So, if you already own a reliable pump, this tank slots in neatly. If not, factor in that additional purchase. Weight is where the aluminum really shines. The empty tank weighs around 80 pounds, which is roughly half the weight of a steel counterpart of the same size. That makes the job of lifting it onto a trailer or into the back of a pickup much less taxing, especially for a single person. However, once you fill it, you're adding about 480 pounds of fuel, and that changes the handling dynamics. The tank's flat bottom and sturdy sidewalls do a good job distributing that weight, but you'll still need a solid, level surface when you're filling it to avoid any sloshing that could affect stability. In my experience, placing the tank on a rubber mat inside a garage gave a stable base and prevented any movement during the fueling process. One practical weakness that's easy to overlook is the venting system. The tank comes with a standard vent plug, but the instructions recommend installing a vent hose that routes to the outside if you plan to keep the tank sealed in an enclosed space. Without proper venting, fuel vapors can build up, which is a safety hazard and can trigger the smell of gasoline inside a small workshop. It's a small extra step, just a short piece of hose and a vent cap, but it's essential for safe operation. If you're a DIE type who loves to